He looked me in the eyes and said, "That child doesn't belong to my legacy." And in that moment, I knew I had to choose between protecting my daughter or surviving his wrath. Have you ever stood in front of someone who once held your heart only to see a stranger staring back at you, cold, calculated, and willing to erase everything you thought was real? That was me, Claire Bennett, alone, terrified, and bleeding in more ways than one. The man I once loved didn't even know he had a daughter. And when fate threw us back into each other's lives in the most brutal way, I had to decide if the truth would save us or destroy us all. This isn't just a story about a broken love. It's about betrayal by blood, the cost of silence in the war. A mother fights when the world threatens her child. And what happened next? Let's just say even I didn't see it coming. Stay with me, because in just a few minutes, something will be revealed that no one, not even him, was prepared for. And it will change everything. It was supposed to be a routine Monday morning for Logan Whitaker. Dressed in a bloodied suit sleeve from a careless kitchen mishap, he had only stopped by St. Grace Memorial Hospital in Boston for a few quick stitches before heading to his rescheduled board meeting. His phone buzzed endlessly, investors waiting, contracts pending. But then a voice shattered everything. "Please, save my mommy. I promise I'll pay you back when I grow up." Logan turned toward the sound and froze. A little girl no older than 4 was clinging to the lab coat of a tired-looking doctor. Her fists were clenched white around the fabric, her eyes glassy with panic. She was so small, so fragile, gripping that coat like it was the only thing anchoring her to the world. Her name, he overheard, was Emma Bennett, and her mother, Claire, had just been rushed into emergency surgery after a serious car crash. The moment the doctor gently peeled Emma's hands away, Logan should have turned back to his buzzing phone. But he didn't. Something about that name Bennett stabbed at a memory buried deep in his chest. It had been 5 years. 5 years since Claire Bennett vanished from his life without a trace. 5 years since he tried to forget her and failed. He spotted the girl again, curled in the corner of the waiting room, whispering to a tattered brown teddy bear with one eye missing. "She's just sleeping right, just like when the medicine makes her sad." Logan's chest tightened. He didn't mean to approach her, but he did. "Hi," he said gently, crouching down. "That's a great name for a bear." Emma looked up, eyes, red cheeks, smudged with dried tears and dirt. "Mr. Bear doesn't like strangers." "That's fair." "I'm Logan. You don't have to talk to me. But would you or Mr. Bear like some hot chocolate?" At the mention of chocolate, her eyes lit up but quickly dimmed again. "Mommy says never to take things from strangers. She's smart," he said, sitting a respectful distance away. "What's your name?" After a long pause, "Emma Bennett." His heart dropped. "Bennett." It wasn't a coincidence. "Emma." "Where's your dad?" "I don't have one," she said plainly. "It's just Mommy and me." Before Logan could respond, chaos erupted from the emergency wing. Nurses yelled. Monitors beeped. He caught a glimpse through the swinging double doors and the breath left his lungs. There she was, even pale and bruised, unconscious on a stretcher. He knew that face, that red hair, that profile. "Claire, do you know my mommy?" Emma asked softly. Logan couldn't answer. His hands were shaking, his mind unraveling. He stared at the little girl, the same green eyes, the same chin. No, it couldn't be, but it had to be. Then, as if fate needed to hammer the point home, Emma swayed slightly and collapsed. He caught her before she hit the floor. A nurse rushed over, alarmed. "We need to take her to pediatrics. She's dehydrated and exhausted." "Is she your daughter?" the nurse asked as they wheeled her onto a stretcher. Logan hesitated. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I'll stay with her," he finally said, voice steadier than he felt. "Don't let her be alone." Emma stirred briefly in his arms, barely conscious, and mumbled, "Mr. Bear is scared." In that moment, the boardroom, the deadlines, the fortune, none of it mattered. He wasn't even sure who he was to her yet, but he knew what he needed to be. As they reached the pediatric wing, a doctor stopped him. "Sir, we need a guardian signature for treatment authorization." "Are you her father?" Logan's jaw clenched. For the first time in years, he didn't overthink, didn't consult a lawyer. He just picked up the pen. "Yes," he said, "I'm her father." He didn't know if it was legally true, but in his heart, it already was. Later that day, he sat beside Emma's hospital bed. She was sleeping soundly, clutching Mr. Bear against her chest, and Logan stared wide-eyed at this child who had crashed into his life like a meteor. He didn't know how Claire would react if or when she woke up. He didn't know why she left him, but he knew one thing. This wasn't a coincidence. This was the universe giving him a second chance, and this time he wasn't going to run. We're just getting started, but do you think Logan made the right decision when he claimed Emma as his daughter, even before knowing the full truth? Let me know in the comments, just say yes or no. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video and tap that heart. The days that followed moved like a dream, strange, suspended, both terrifying and tender. Claire was still unconscious in intensive care. Emma remained in pediatrics, slowly regaining strength, her tiny hand always reaching for Logan's whenever he entered the room. And Logan, he was unraveling. At first, he told himself he was just being kind, just helping. Any decent human would do the same. But when Emma looked up at him and whispered, "Daddy, will Mommy wake up?" his heart didn't skip a beat. It shattered. He didn't correct her. He couldn't. Not when her voice trembled with hope, not when her smile lit up the sterile hospital room like sunlight. The more time he spent with her, the less he doubted. She had to be his daughter. And if she wasn't, then God help him, because he didn't know how to let her go. But guilt crept in, shadowy and cold. He hadn't told anyone, hadn't told Claire, hadn't even told his lawyer. And the longer he held on to this secret, the heavier it became. Then came the night he got the call. Mr. Whitaker, the nurse's voice trembled. "Claire is awake." He dropped everything. When he entered the ICU, Claire lay pale but conscious, her eyes drifting lazily toward the ceiling, lost in the chaos of waking up after trauma. But the moment she saw him, her face changed. Shock, anger, then something deeper, fear. "Logan." Her voice was hoarse, fragile. He stood frozen. For a man who commanded boardrooms, crossed continents in jets, and signed billion-dollar deals without blinking, he had never felt more uncertain. I wasn't sure you'd recognize me," he said quietly, his voice barely reaching her. Claire's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here?" That hurt more than he expected. "I was here when they brought you in." "I didn't know it was you at first," he explained. "But then I saw Emma. Claire. Is she my daughter?" The question hung in the air like a thundercloud. Claire looked away, her lips trembling. For a moment, Logan thought she wouldn't answer, but then she whispered, "Yes." Silence, thick and hot. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, barely able to contain the storm behind his eyes. Claire turned her head away, blinking back tears. "Because your father paid me to disappear." Logan's blood turned to ice. Douglas, Claire nodded slowly. "He came to my apartment, told me you had a future that didn't include a waitress with a baby. He said if I ever contacted you again, he'd destroy me." Logan's hands clenched into fists. All these years he thought she had left him, thought she had moved on without a word. But the truth, she was protecting their child from a monster. He wanted to scream, to cry, to punch something. But Emma was sleeping down the hall and Claire was barely hanging on. "Claire, I would have chosen you." "Always," he said, his voice shaking. She looked at him, then really looked, and something cracked behind her guarded stare. But the moment was shattered by a knock at the door. Mr. Whitaker said, a sharply dressed man in a tailored navy suit. "Your father is downstairs. He insists on seeing you." Logan's jaw tightened. "Tell him I said go to hell." "Sir, he's threatening to call Child Protective Services if you don't bring Emma to him." Claire's heart monitor beeped faster. Her face went pale. "He can't take her, Logan. He can't. He won't," Logan growled. "Not while I'm breathing." The next morning, Logan walked into the hospital conference room with his legal team. Across the table sat Douglas Whitaker, stone-faced, calculating as ever. "You think you can fix this with threats," Logan said coldly. Douglas leaned back, smug. "I'm protecting the Whitaker name. A child born out of wedlock to a nobody waitress." "Don't," Logan snapped. "Don't you dare say another word about her. You're making decisions with your heart again, just like your mother did. And look where that got her." Logan stood. "Then hear this, I'm changing my will. Emma is now my legal heir, and if you try to interfere again, I'll make sure your name is erased from every boardroom in this city." For once, Douglas didn't speak. He just stared, silently fuming, as his empire slipped through his fingers. Back in pediatrics, Emma sat cross-legged on her bed, crayons scattered beside her. When Logan walked in, she held up a drawing, 3 stick figures, Claire, Emma, and him holding hands under a giant sun. "You drew us," he said, kneeling down. Emma nodded proudly. "Mr. Bear said we're a real family now." Logan felt his throat tighten. "We are, sweetheart." But outside the room, Claire stood silently watching. And though her body still ached, it was her heart that hurt the most. She had lied, hid the truth. But she had also saved Emma. And now, Logan had saved them both. She didn't know if she could ever truly forgive herself. But when she saw the way Logan looked at their daughter with awe, with devotion, with fierce love, she let herself believe something she hadn't in a long time. Maybe second chances were real. We're just getting to the heart of it now. But what would you have done in Claire's place? Would you have left to protect your child or stayed and fought the impossible? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story moved you even a little, please like the video and tap that heart. Autumn had settled over Boston like a quiet blessing, golden leaves spinning in crisp air, children laughing in coats too big for their frames, and a new warmth blossoming in a corner of St. Grace Memorial that no one could have expected just weeks before. Room 314, once dim and silent, now radiated with life, laughter, and something rarer, hope. Claire was walking again, slow but steady. Each day she looked a little stronger, her voice firmer, her smile a little less cautious. The bruises on her body were fading, but the ones on her heart, those would take longer. Still, she wasn't alone anymore. And Logan? Logan had changed too. He no longer checked his phone every 10 minutes. His days were measured not by conference calls, but by Emma's giggles, Claire's progress, and the small moments he used to overlook, like the way Emma curled into his lap to read, or how Claire bit her lip when concentrating on crossword puzzles. One chilly afternoon, Logan surprised them both. A knock on the hospital door was followed by him entering with something hidden behind his back. Emma sat up in bed, eyes wide. "What is it?" she gasped. With a grin, Logan revealed a small brown puppy with oversized ears and a clumsy tail. "He didn't have a name," Logan said, placing the wiggling puppy in Emma's lap. "I thought maybe you and Mr. Bear could help him out." Emma squealed. "He looks like a marshmallow then." "Marshmallow it is." Claire said, her voice soft, her eyes glistening. But later that night, Claire asked the question she had kept buried for too long. "Logan," she whispered as he stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker, "why are you still here? After everything? After what I did?" He turned to her slowly. "Because I never stopped loving you. And because you never left me, you were pushed away." Claire looked down at her hands. "You say that like forgiveness is simple." "It's not," he admitted, "but love makes it possible." She looked at him and for the first time really let herself believe it. She reached for his hand. He took it without hesitation. 2 weeks later, Claire was discharged. The hospital staff waved goodbye like family as Logan carried their bags to the car. Emma clutched Marshmallow and Mr. Bear tight in her arms, her smile wide enough to swallow the wind. But the real surprise came the next morning. Claire woke to find Logan pacing the living room of the townhouse he'd secretly prepared. The space was warm and full of light, nothing like the cold penthouse he used to live in. "What's going on?" she asked, stepping into the room. Logan turned to her, nervous for the first time since she'd known him. "I wanted to do this differently, fancier, with a violinist or a view of the Eiffel Tower. But I realized none of that matters." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Claire's breath caught. "I don't want to be your billionaire ex, or the guy who shows up too late. I want to be your partner, your friend, your pain and your healing. I want to build a life with you, not because we share a child, but because I never stopped wanting you." He opened the box. A simple ring, a quiet promise. "Claire Bennett, will you marry me?" Her knees buckled and she sat right there on the floor, laughing and crying at once. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Emma, still half asleep in her pajamas, wandered into the room, rubbing her eyes. "What's going on?" Logan grinned. We were just talking about making this family official. Emma tilted her head. Does that mean I get to wear a fancy dress too? Claire laughed. You might even get to pick the color. The weeks that followed moved quickly. Not just wedding plans, but healing, emotional, messy, imperfect healing. Claire began therapy. Logan cut off all ties with his father. And together they met with lawyers to ensure Emma's future was secure no matter what. Their wedding wasn't held in a ballroom or on a yacht. Instead, it took place in the backyard of a small coastal inn in Cape Cod, with sea breeze in their hair and autumn leaves swirling like confetti. Emma walked Claire down the aisle holding marshmallow, while Mr. Bear sat proudly in a flower crown. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Logan didn't hesitate. He kissed her like it was the first time, and in many ways it was. It was the first kiss not marred by secrets or fear. Just truth. Just love. Afterward, they danced under strings of fairy lights, and for the first time in years, Claire felt safe. Emma twirled beside them, giggling as marshmallow chased her veil. That night, as they tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at them sleepily and whispered, "Now I have a mommy, a daddy, a puppy, and Mr. Bear. That's everything." And Logan whispered back, "Yes, baby girl, that's everything." So what would you have done if love gave you a second chance after years of silence? Would you have risked your heart again? And do you believe people truly change when they have something real to fight for? What do you think about this story? If it touched your heart, comment number 3 below. If you think it was just okay, write number 2. And if it didn't move you, that's okay too. Just write number 1. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments. And if you believe in second chances like this one, please tap that heart and share this story with someone who needs a little hope today.